From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And it is time for the premier sports betting show. And, man, it is the Primetime Angles. So, here we are. And let's go ahead and jump into NFL Week 5. We have a whole lot that's going on in the NFL today. We have Cincinnati, who looked pretty good yesterday. With Jamar Chase catching 15 balls for 192 yards. So he's officially off the snide, somewhat to say. Also, you had great win from the Titans yesterday as well, too. Not the Titans, I'm sorry, but from the Colts, and I had the Colts, silly me. But the Colts got themselves a good win. Now they're tied for first place in the South Division as well. And then it's crazy because we got three teams that are over 500 in the NFC South right now, but then we have one team that's still winless, and they're the only winless team in the NFL, and that's the Carolina Panthers, who lost to Detroit, who's now 4-1 on the season, and they are enjoying their best start to the first 5 games in a season since probably Bobby Lane was the quarterback for the team. So let's go ahead and get into the news at hand, the top stories in the NFL to me for the Primetime Angles. So up first, let's talk about the Jags beat Bills again, 25-20 in London. And, the Jaguars had their little sabbatical over in their second home playing in London, but they weren't the home team yesterday, but pretty much they should have been the home team yesterday. They went ahead and won their second in a row, a much-needed win as well, too. This team now moves to 3-2 after being 1-2, and everybody was kind of scared about what was next for this Jaguars team because they did struggle a bit when they were in the States, but they went to London to go get things corrected, get things fixed. They had a dominant performance last week against a pretty good Atlanta team, and then they came back this week, and they were able to win a very good hard-fought game against a very talented Buffalo group who sees themselves as one of the best teams in the AFC. Jaguars are trying to get to that level in the AFC at this point. So you saw this game yesterday, and Trevor Lawrence was 25 for 37, 67 percent completion percentage as well, 102.9 QBR. Threw for a touchdown as well, too, and finished up with 315 passing yards. But the story of the game was Travis Etienne, who had 2 touchdowns, 136 yards on 26 carries, and that's an old-school performance on an average of 5.2 yards per rush. So that was pretty huge in itself as well, too. Trevor Lawrence was a little shaky yesterday. He fumbled the ball 3 times as well and lost 2 of those fumbles, so he's going to have to clean that up a bit because that could have been the difference in that game. But luckily enough, their defense forced 2 turnovers as well, too, which was huge in this game because forcing that fumble and getting that interception for Darius Williams was just magnificent because he had himself a game yesterday. And, this guy was somebody who was kind of a throwaway in a sense. He was a backup in LA. And then, with Jacksonville last year, he was decent, but he had pretty much a coming out party yesterday. And that was pretty huge for a guy that, wasn't seen as doing much this season moving forward. So they are on the right trajectory. You see the Bills yesterday. They had Josh Allen throw 27 for 40. He had 67% completion rate. And then he had 359 yards, 2 touchdowns to interception. So, he won in the battle of the throwing yards, but still, he just had those moments where You can't afford that. And Stephon Diggs had a big game yesterday, 8 catches for 121 yards, scored a touchdown, but he also lost a fumble in the process as well, too. Gabe Davis had a big day as well, 6 catches for 100 yards. And also, before I forget, Calvin Riley had himself a day as well, too. It seemed like he was getting a little cooped up, but yesterday he broke out of that, had 7 catches for 122 yards. So, yeah, this was an absolute great game, and it came down to who wanted it more. And when I look at the numbers of this game, you have a Jaguars team that spent way more time on the field. They had a 38-minute, 12-second time of possession compared to the Bills' 21 minutes and 48 seconds. And also, they ran 82 plays compared to the Bills' 54 plays. And then they did outdo them on the first down accord as well, too. Jaguars had 29 first downs. The Bills had 18. And then they also were pretty good on third down. The Bills couldn't get off the field. They were 10 for 18 on third down, had 474 total yards, but their defense gave up 388 total yards in the process. But they rushed for 196 yards, and that winds up being the reason why this team was able to keep themselves in the mix to win this game and win the game the way that they did. So with that, pretty much that's going to be a wrap on this game right here. And the Jaguars go ahead and move forward and get themselves the much-needed win that they needed to stay atop of the AFC South, because this team has expectations at the end of the day. They got real expectations. This team is looking to be the champions of the division again. And so they had to step up. And that's exactly what happened yesterday in London. So let's move forward. Let's get into a game that was really good yesterday. And that's going to be the Falcons stay undefeated at home to win a thriller versus the Texans 21-19. The Texans came in winning 2 in a row. The Falcons came in losing 2 in a row. And the Falcons, once again, were a team that were coming fresh off the plane from London after a beatdown the week before, losing that game 23-7. And then they lost 20-6 the week before in Detroit. So this team was going through it a bit because, it was a kind of a new feel for in a sense, after those 2 very exciting road home games that they had to start the season off. They blew out Carolina to start the season, and then they had a very close clutch victory against the Packers, games that they used to not win, games that they actually used to lose. Then they go on the road, they lose, they put up 2 stinkers, wind up losing by double digits in both those games. So they come in as a slight favorite yesterday against Texas team that surprised all of us over the last 2 weeks. They got a big win in Jacksonville. They beat up on the Jaguars, they held them to single digits. Then they also went ahead and beat up on the Steelers last week, beating them 30-6. And CJ Stroud has been able to set all types of records and everything like that throughout his first 4 or 5 games of the year. He's actually set another record yesterday as well. So there was just big things happening. And also CJ hadn't thrown an interception as of yet either. So this was a pretty big game in all senses of the word when we went into it. But all in all, though, when you look at the numbers, Desmond Ridder was pretty much the star of the game yesterday. Desmond Ridder had 28. It was 28 for 37, completed 75% of his passes, and threw for 329 yards and had a touchdown as well, too, and had a 111.2 QBR. Also, Bijan Robinson was able to hit the end zone yesterday. He only had 46 yards on 14 carries, but that touchdown was huge in the long run of that game because it really put things over the top for the Falcons, because when he scored that touchdown, they caught a lot of momentum at that time. So that was huge. Kyle Pitts finally had a really good game. 7 catches, 87 yards. Drake London had 6 catches, 78 yards. So those guys finally got their fantasy owners some love yesterday. So that's why I said Desmond Ridder did very well yesterday in this game. And you know what? The defense did not get any sacks, but they were able to get a lot of deflections yesterday that were key. They had 5 in total. And also they were able to just play a good group defense yesterday that was able to help them hold this game down. Now, you look at the Texans numbers, CJ was pretty good again, 249 yards thrown on 20 of 35. On 20 and 35, but this was probably his lowest completion percentage game. He only had 50. It was only 57% for this game, but last week against Pittsburgh, it was 53.3%. So when it comes to QBR, he hadn't had a QBR this low since opening week, where he was and he finished up with 88.9 yesterday. Opening week, he finished up with 78 on the QBR. So, CJ did the best he could do yesterday, but he was in a little bit of distress because the thing was Atlanta played good team defense. They might have not have been getting interceptions and sacks and forced fumbles, but they were able to contain the very pretty good passing attack and keep things where they wanted it at. And they couldn't get anything going in the running game the way they wanted to. You had Pierce run for 66 yards on 20 carries, but that was it. And that's a lot of carries, and he didn't really get that many yards out the deal either. And they kept Tank Dell and Nico Collins in check as well, too. Dalton Schultz was actually his big receiver yesterday. Dalton Schultz was able to score a touchdown, and he caught 7 passes for 65 yards. And pretty good game from Will Anderson yesterday as well, too. He had 6 tackles in the game, but it just wasn't enough. At the end of the day, when I look at the numbers really tell me that the Falcons were the dominant team here. They were able to stay on the field as well too. 50% of their third down plays went ahead and went well. They also had 74 plays to 58 as well too in this game. And then when you look at the rushing yards, that was pretty much the difference in this game. They got 96 yards on the ground and they got 351 yards through the air. So this worked out very well. This was probably one of their better games when it came to a total balance of offense, but especially in the pass game as well too, which people been begging for. So the game comes down to a final kick from Kuho. He got a funny name, so I want to make sure I say it all the way right because I don't want to be too. Young Ho Koo. Yeah, Young Ho Koo kicks a 37-yard field goal to win the game. But C.J. Stroud was close to having another big moment with that late touchdown that he did throw to Schultz. But it just wasn't enough at the end of the day. It just wasn't enough. And you know what? They just didn't get going the way that they got going in the first 2 weeks. And it's that simple. But Atlanta gets themselves a good win. They're 3-2 now on the season. They find themselves in position to be one of the better teams in the NFC right now, but it's still early in the season, but they got a big opportunity to actually go ahead and really make some noise in the NFC South as well too. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our next and it's going to be this. Thank you for tuning in all around hustle. Much appreciated catching me live. I had to make sure I announced it to you guys today because I know people won't know if it's not announced, so it is what it is. But here we are. Let's move forward. Let's jump into our next, and that's going to be the Saints destroyed the Pats 34-0, second week in a row being beat by 30 plus. Is the season lost? That's the biggest question for the Patriots right now. I would say with Bill Belichick, no. I would just say that Bill Belichick has the most bulletin board material that he's probably had in the last 40 years. And he's going to be able to just dissect and rip apart guys. But will they be able to accept that? That's the thing. But let me talk about the Saints first because the Saints won the game. They won the game in very dominant fashion as well too, and their defense really said, you know what, we don't care what the offense is going to do today, we're going to step this thing up and we're going to get stops. That's what we're going to do because we see an offense on the other side that's not that good. And so what we're going to do as a group today, we're going to shut them down, and we're not going to sit up in here and give them the opportunity to feel that they're going to be in this game. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. You have a team in the Saints that had 17 first downs yesterday. That's not a lot, really, but the Patriots only had 8. So that means that they were averaging 2 a quarter in this game. The Patriots had 156 total yards in the game, 45 rushing, 111 passing yards, and they had 51 plays. You have 51 plays and you equate it to that much offense, that's awful. And the Saints had 70 plays themselves. Saints put the ball on the ground 42 times yesterday as well. And they just did their thing. They got 2 sacks. They were able to win the time of possession battle by almost 20 minutes, 39-34 to 20-26. This was just an absolute just clinic, and it was a ball possession game for a team that has not been able to score that many points. They literally scored as many points as they did in the last 2 weeks in that game. And you have Derek Carr, who threw for 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, sacked twice, 18 for 26. When you look at the numbers, it's not that good, but his QBR was 114.7. So he did everything right. Kamara was a big difference. 80 yards with the touchdown yesterday on 22 carries. Also, Michael Thomas arrived yesterday somewhat, 4 catches on 65 with 65 yards. And then Olave was able to get himself a touchdown yesterday. Moreau as well, too. So that was good. That was good building for this team. And Cameron Jordan got half a sack with Kapasigan. And then also Granderson had himself a sack as well, too. So everything worked in the right way for the Saints. And then when you look at the Pats numbers, Mac Jones probably had his worst game ever as a Patriot yesterday, 12 for 22. He only completed 54.5% of his passes for 110 yards, and he was averaging 5 yards of catch as well, too. And then also pretty much a QBR of 30.5. So this is not going to fly. And then the running game was just as bad, too. Zeke had eight carries, 21 yards. Stevenson had 24 yards on 8 carries. This is not going to work for this team. And they did get to the quarterback yesterday, but that was almost pageantry in a sense. You know what I mean? It was really, really bad. But all in all, I truly do feel that the Patriots are a team that you have to say to yourself, when is it going to be time for you to move on from Bill Belichick? And when is it going to be time for you to just go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to start fresh? But I do understand Kraft. Kraft is a corporate guy, okay? And Kraft has this mentality that with a great coach like Bill Belichick that he's had so much success with, he much rather Bill Belichick step off on his own. Or when they get to the end of the year and have their end of the year meetings, he nicely asks him to retire. But I don't truly think Bill's that much of the problem here. I think what happens here with the Patriots is that they just don't have the roster. It's that simple. They don't have the leader at quarterback. They don't have the playmakers at the wide receiver position. Their running back spot is pretty good. And I know that's where Bill's thinking is that let's be a great running team. But it's not going to work if you're not going to be able to do, deceptive things with the pass game. And they just have not been able to do that. And they're putting too much pressure on the defense. We know that the Patriots defense can hold the line if they need to. But if they're on the field 80% of the game, it's not gonna even matter. They're not gonna have enough energy to keep doing the same thing. And once again, that there's roster issues on that end as well, too. The Patriots are a team that really does need to look at who they are in the mirror and understand that this just ain't going to be their season. Okay. And I truly do feel that the Patriots are going to be a top 10 picking team this year, but they're going to be much better next week. I'm telling you, they'll be much better next week because Bill Belichick is going to rip into these fellas, and he's going to rip into them pretty hard. Pause. But let's move forward. Let's talk about our next game, and that's going to be this. That's going to be the Steelers. Defense steps up big and help lead comeback over Ravens 17-10. Once again, our boy Lamar Jackson did not look as good as you would think a guy who's one of the highest paid players in the league is supposed to look. And that's kind of been like every week now. And you know what? It's okay because he gives the Ravens comfort. They're 3-2 now. That was a game that they should have won, but they just didn't do enough yesterday to win that game. And the Steelers, once again, they find ways to win. The Steelers know that games aren't won in the first quarter. They're not won in the second quarter. they're won in the third and fourth quarter in reality. Because we can have a team get blown out, be up 21 to zip first quarter, then lose that game 28 to 20, 28 to 24. You know what I mean? And then you can have a team that's been dominating all day, and everybody's like, well, it's just the Steelers defense is bad. The defense is not doing anything. Next thing you know, their defense is going crazy in the fourth quarter, and they're making big plays. They're making things happen, and you wind up losing the game. The game was at 10-3 most of the day, 10-3. And at one point, it was 10 to zip. And the Steelers looked really hapless on offense. They truly did. And it would seem like they brought the stank in from the week before because they scored 6 points. 6 points. And then everybody has to remember they kind of had to put some things together against the Raiders, and that worked too. But in reality, this team just ain't good offensively. Now, the defense is really being led by TJ Watt. TJ Watt had 2 sacks yesterday. That was huge. Quan Alexander had a sack yesterday as well, too. And also Highsmith had a sack as well, too. But all in all, J.J. Watt made sure his presence was felt. And he even punched Zay Flowers in the face yesterday. That's how crazy this game really got in reality. So the Steelers really are a group that knows that their offense is limited, but by being a total unit, they can win any game they want to be honest with you. They really can. And they are in position to where if the game is close, this is a team that you really don't want to be in a close game with, to be honest with you. Because look at what happened with the Browns. Look at what happened with the Raiders as well, too. And they won those games simply off the fact that they didn't stop playing. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. Kenny Pickett, 224 yards thrown, threw for a touchdown, sacked 3 times, 18 for 32, 56.3 completion percentage, but 88.5 QBR. So that wasn't a good showing. But Jaylen Warren was decent yesterday, 40 yards on 9 touches. Najee Harris is struggling immensely. And the biggest run they had yesterday was from Gray Pickens, a wide receiver. But Gray Pickens had himself a game yesterday. He had an excellent game yesterday for a receiver. And he had 6 catches, 130 yards, and the touchdown that really set the tone for this game as well, too. So everything worked out so well for the Steelers yesterday. And you look at Lamar's numbers, another really, really just questionable game. 236 yards through the air, 57.9 completion percentage, threw a pick, sacked 4 times, 65.2 QBR. That's not a quarterback that's not a $40 million a year quarterback right there, guys. It's just not. And he didn't even do well in the run yesterday either. He had six runs, 45 yards that equated in him fumbling the ball, and it was a key fumble in this game that pretty much was the difference in this game as well, too. And you look at the numbers on the defensive end, the defense showed up. They did their job. They came in here and got their 4 sacks yesterday as well, too, but it just wasn't enough. Well, actually 3 sacks. Sorry about that. But they just wasn't enough. And then when I look at the bottom line, the numbers, the Ravens had 2 more plays, 67 to 65. They had 2 more first downs, 19 to 17. But the Steelers got off the field more on third down. They went 6 for 15, while the Ravens went 5 for 14. And that, to me, probably did make a difference in the end part of the game. And when you look at time possession, they were only a few seconds apart. So this was an absolute epic, and this will go down as the game of the week. So the Steelers, Ravens, can't wait till we get them in Baltimore in a few months, and that will be another doozy of a game, in my opinion. So here we go. We move forward. Let's talk about the Chiefs, who keep cruising with a 27-20 win over the Vikings, improving 2-4-1 on the season. The defending Super Bowl champs are looking forward to, just keeping this thing rolling. But I think that this is a team that is actually testing their actual skill level at this point, because in reality, I truly do feel that this team is coasting, to be honest with you. They played against a Minnesota team that just got kind of overwhelmed there at the end of the game, but Minnesota was in this game most of the game. Minnesota just has a terrible defense. When you look at the numbers in this game, their defense gave up 333 total yards yesterday. 266 of those came from the passing game yesterday. But the biggest thing that killed me with the Vikings yesterday was the 4 penalties that they had. But compared to the 10 penalties that the Chiefs had for 86 yards, people can't keep using that excuse that they're doing favors for the Chiefs, because they're truly not. The Chiefs had 10 penalties yesterday, and that was 6 more than the Vikings, and they still won the game by 7 points. Also, they ran 4 less plays than the Vikings, 68-64. So when you really look at it, you say to yourself, how do they keep winning? It's because Patrick Mahomes spreads the wealth. You look at the way that he sets up for this. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 receivers that he threw the ball to yesterday. And Kelsey still was able to get all his catches. He got 10 catches, 67 yards, but he was able to get other guys involved as well too. And this is what makes Patrick Mahomes everybody's favorite quarterback in a lot of ways, because he shares the wealth. It's not always just about Travis Kelsey. It's about who's open and who's going to catch that ball at that moment. That's why the Chiefs keep being much better than everybody else. They use everybody that's a part of the roster, literally. You can't be on the Chiefs if you're not going to contribute. And that's what happens when you play on championship teams. If you're not going to contribute, you might as well go play in the USFL, XFL, so you can get yourself some real playing time. But in the NFL, when you got everybody involved, everybody's having fun, that's what really produces a winning culture. Isaac Pacheco, again, had a pretty solid game, 16 rushes on 55 yards. Also had a catch for 9 yards yesterday for 64 total yards. So that's pretty good. And I feel like Pacheco's somebody that is very, very significant in making this team go. And that's exactly what they needed to move forward. I know that they had other running backs here in the Mahomes era that were very insignificant, but with Pacheco, he stands out because he's just an absolute baller. If you have Pacheco on any other team in the NFL that was running back needy, he would be the leader of their team and probably the best player on their team as well too. So, he's an absolute gem to have. You know what I mean? Because let's keep it real. He was one of the better running backs in college football, and I did see him play at Rutgers. And I used to always be impressed, like, damn, Pacheco, stop. You know what I mean? Because he's going that hard. But they just got everything in place. They got everything right, and that's something that you do have to commend. Also, you look at the Vikings real quick. You have a Vikings team that they're 1-4, but they shouldn't panic. They really shouldn't panic. And fans shouldn't panic, because being 1-4 at this point absolutely means nothing. There's teams that go 1-4 at the end of the year and wind up still making the playoffs. So pretty much they're not a front runner this year. But you look at their schedule, their next 5 games, they're tough, but they're very winnable at the same time too. Chicago, San Francisco, Green Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans. They can win 4 out of 5 of those games. Let's keep it real. Let's not act like they can't. They absolutely can. So when you look at the schedule and them moving forward, it's not that ugly. You feel what I'm saying? It's not that ugly like where it is for the Panthers or other teams that are sitting at the bottom tier of the NFC at this point. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Let's go ahead and get into the Eagles stay undefeated, winning 23-14 in LA against the Rams. Are they the best team in the NFL? That's the question. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFL? A lot of people are saying the 49ers, but we're going to talk about their game in a moment. The Eagles don't really care if you think they're the best or not. They're going to still just show up, show out, and do what they got to do to win these football games. They did what they had to do yesterday, and that was play great defense. They knew they had to take everything that Stafford and the crew wanted to do away that works well. They want to take all that away. They had to take all that away, because that was the only way they were going to win this game. Because when you come to LA and you don't step up right away, you'll get beat. And the Eagles know that. So when it comes down to it, they played the type of game that the champs do. They came in here, they weren't about being pretty, they weren't about, having fancy plays and things like that. They played this game physical, and they had to be first with everything. That's exactly what happened here. The Eagles showed their resolve as well, too. They went down 4 points this week. They were down to 17 the week before. They went down 4 points this week. And then guess what? They went ahead. They saw that they were down. The light popped on. And next thing you know, the Eagles are up 23-14 and ball game. That's pretty much what happened yesterday. Once the Eagles got down, they took control of the game. There was nothing else the Rams were going to do yesterday. Let's keep it real. Jalen Hurts was pretty good yesterday. He had himself a game. A.J. Brown was good, but Goddard wound up being the X factor for this team yesterday because he really made it very hard on the Rams because the Rams did their best to take away Devonta Smith. People were starting to realize Devonta Smith is the weapon on the Eagles defense, on the Eagles offense. Okay. That guy can run a go route and be past you 10 yards ahead. And if Hurts sees him, it's a touchdown. That's how it's been pretty much all year. Yesterday, they kept him in check to 6 yards on one catch. But A.J. Brown was balling yesterday. 6 catches, 127 yards. And as I said before, Goddard led everybody in catches yesterday with 8 for 117 and a touchdown. Now, DeAndre Swift once again had a great running game, 17 carries, 70 yards. Hurts went ahead and complimented that with a 72-yard performance on 15 rushes, and he scored a touchdown as well, too. So that was a big thing for this game as well. Then Jalen gives you 303 yards through the air as well, too. He threw a pick yesterday, finishes up with an 87.9 QBR, but I thought he did pretty good. But, if you get sacked, if you get an interception, then that does play against your rating. But he did well enough to win this football game for this team. But when you look at who really won this game for the Eagles, it's the defense. The defense wound up doing exactly what they're paid to do. Hassan Reddick, big-time player, had 2 sacks. And then the defensive rookie of the year, just give it to him now, Jalen Carter. Another 2 sacks for Jalen Carter Sunday afternoon. And you know what? Jalen Carter is a disruptor, and he's really the definition of what this season's been all about, where we've had these front sevens and all these disruptive players that literally are making offenses look preschool. I'm telling you, you guys have to look at the numbers and see that the defenses are stepping it up. There's more sacks, there's more interceptions, there's more fumbles. There's a lot of things going on that the defense is affecting in the NFL, but they still want to go back and make it seem like the quarterbacks just ain't playing good football right now. It's because the defense is playing that lights out literally across the board in the NFL. And the Eagles are leading the charge in that situation as well, too. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward to our final topic in the NFL aftermath for Week 5, and that's the 49ers beat down rivals as they beat the Cowboys 42-10 in what was billed as the game of the week. Man, that was such a flat game from the very first kick and from the very end point of the game. It was just San Francisco, I would say a San Francisco exhibition of what's to come. This team is special. They're really special. Brock Purdy, y'all got to stop. No more hate on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the ultimate game manager. He's the Brad Johnsons of the world, the Trent Dilfers of the world, guys that win football games. That's what they do. They don't go out there. They're not trying to be in every commercial. They're not trying to be an announcer. They're not trying to be some football player that they're not. They're not trying to compare themselves to the greats. They just go out there and they win football games because they know they can be replaced if they start making mistakes. That's the whole thing. Brock Purdy plays like a quarterback that has a coach that will pull the trigger very quickly if he starts struggling. which is somewhat true because you got Sam Darnold, NFL veteran, sitting right there in the best opportunity he's ever had in the league with the best roster he's ever had. And he can probably play up to the expectations that he had coming out of USC because of playing for a better team. And right now, Brock Purdy, he knows that. And Brock Purdy has made himself the starting quarterback literally out of nowhere. Trey Lance was supposed to be the man here. Trey Lance is sitting in Dallas as the third string quarterback at this point, okay? And Brock Purdy is over here just doing amazing things. And he doesn't need to have a parade about it. And you know what? The hate, it fuels them. I heard somebody say, you know what? They're not going to be able to do this thing with Brock Purdy. They're not going to be able to really be able to succeed. No, you look at Brock Purdy because he was the last player picked in the draft, and that's who you assume he's going to be. But when you're a baller, when you're a gamer, it don't matter what round they drafted you in. It doesn't matter when they picked you up. You perform. You do your job. You are doing exactly what you're paid to do. And you have went above and beyond expectations of what they had for you. And that's absolutely beautiful. When the 49ers got down to their third string quarterback, everybody said the season was over. Everybody said the season was over. And they had just got Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel had injury issues as well, too. But Brock Purdy stepped into this role like he was the everyday starter. And you know who this reminds me of? None other than Tom Brady. And he ain't won no Super Bowls yet, but the commitment and the work ethic that you've taken upon yourself to become the starting quarterback for one of the better teams in the NFL, this is how Brady became Brady. He had to be the manager. He had to learn how to lead a great team. But what he did was he got the respect. And once he got the respect, he could do whatever he wants. And he has the trust of his coach as well, too. So there's a lot of things that are going so well for the San Francisco 49ers at this point to where you can't deny that the Niners today are the best team in the NFL. Let's keep it real. They are firing at all cylinders. Offense on point, defense on point, special teams on point, chemistry on point. Everything is calling for this team to be playing in Las Vegas in February. Everything's calling for it. But we still have a long season to go. They got to go to Cleveland next week, going against another really tough defense. How will they be able to pass that test? You know what I mean? And how will they approach that game? We'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow on the NFL Bet Exchange. Make sure that you tune into that at 10 a.m. Pacific time as well, too. So with that, all in all, I don't have to go through the stats. We all saw the game last night. The San Francisco 49ers were absolutely dominant, and the Cowboys were just out of their element. And, you know, the Cowboys have their excuses as always, but at the end of the day, who cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? The Cowboys, we know your expectations. We know what you're about. We know that you came into this game with the idea that let's just try to survive. And I don't think the Cowboys ever had it in their mind that they were going to win that game last night. Let's keep it real. And that's exactly how it looked. Now, maybe as they get better and better down the road, they'll probably be able to, you know, match up with the 49ers. But at this point right now, today, the 49ers are leagues ahead of the Cowboys, dude. And I hate to talk like this because I thought they was on an even plane, but they really are not. Like, seriously, they're not. And it comes down to coaching. It comes down to personnel. And it comes down to belief. You know what I mean? And you know that the Cowboys – everybody in the locker room doesn't believe in their quarterback. Everybody in the 49ers locker room, they believe in their quarterback. They love him, and they will go to war with this guy. Will everybody in the Cowboys go to war with Dak? That's the question. That's the biggest question that we all have. And it seems like every time out, they ain't ready to go to war with Dak. It's that simple. All right? So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. When I get back, we're going to be talking to NBA. We got the NBA preview with the Charlotte Hornets. We got the state of the Lakers, and then we're going to talk some MLB playoffs as well, too. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Cappers.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube. All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. Let's go ahead and jump into our NBA preview, and our NBA preview is for the Charlotte Hornets today. And the Charlotte Hornets, this team is really just, they're one of the funniest teams in NBA history, in my opinion. Your name was the Bobcats because, you guys – the original Hornets franchise moved to New Orleans. Everybody knows the story. They were the New Orleans Hornets for a good decade. And then when Charlotte came back around, gave up those dollars real quick, they returned the Hornets name and colors and all that stuff back to the city of Charlotte because, they love their Hornets, man. They love the idea of the Hornets, and it never looked right with the Hornets being in New Orleans, and there's no Hornets in New Orleans, so it just didn't match. But, all in all, we fast forward to today, and let's keep it real. They have a guy, when healthy, who is probably top 5 young players in the league, pretty much point blank. And he could be considered a dark horse MVP candidate as well, too, if this team can actually play some pretty good basketball this season. I'm just saying this because when you look at LaMelo's numbers in the 36 games he played last season before he had to take the rest of the year off, he was averaging 23 points and he was getting almost 9 assists a game, almost 8 rebounds a game. So that means the kid was averaging almost a triple-double. And the Charlotte Hornets were such a good team when he was healthy. They were a very good team. They were the type of team that you really couldn't sit up there and say that they were out of any game. They would get down 15, 17 points, figure out a way to get back in the game and almost win that game or win the game. Or they had games where they went back and forth with teams and wound up getting themselves some pretty good wins. It seems like LaMelo does have a good grasp on the community that they're in, that he knows who he's catering to. It's the young audience of the NBA. The teenagers, the children, not grown men like me, not the 30-year-olds, not the guys arguing about LeBron and Kobe and Jordan all day. It's about the people that play 2K right now that have no idea, no clue about what was happening 20 years ago. They're only worried about what's happening today. And LaMelo Ball is the face of that right now. LaMelo Ball and Edwards, I think, have a true rivalry in a sense on who's going to really be the next up as the face of the NBA. Right now, Ant's in the lead because LaMelo can't stay healthy. But when it comes to the whole coverage and putting a guy on TV and putting a guy on a GQ magazine, it's LaMelo Ball. Everybody knows that. It's LaMelo. But LaMelo has to stay healthy. If LaMelo can stay healthy, Charlotte can be a factor in the East because the East is wide open. Once you get away from the top of the East, that's going to be Boston. That's going to be Milwaukee. That's going to be Philadelphia. Those 3 teams right there are already set in their ways. But once you go 4 through 8, it can be anybody it wants to be. Cleveland has kind of put their hat in the ring. Then you have Brooklyn, who's kind of put their hat in the ring. But then when you look at it, you have Miami, who's a real wild card. Because I didn't put Miami in the top 3, but I know Miami's a playoff team, and they went to the finals last year. We got to see what Miami's able to get though this year. That's the question, though. At the end of the day, So Charlotte could be that team that plays themselves into the play-in. They're probably not set to be a 4, 5, 6 yet, but they had a good opportunity to be a 7 or 8. And LaMelo's already made the playoffs in his second year in the league. But you know what? They fell short. They were in the play-in. They were like the 10th seed. And, it was a good learning experiment. This time around, though, this is a season where LaMelo has to say to himself, no more messing around. Let's get to the point of really winning in this league. You know what I mean? And really, really, really being able to do what we have to do. So pretty much, man. Give me 1 second. All right. So pretty much here we are. We got this situation here. And it's just really like, I'm telling you, man, this is going to be something that's going to be good. But then you got guys like PJ. Then you guys got guys like PJ. Hold it down. All right. You got guys like, oh man, it's good to have guys like Miles Bridges back on this team, and all those players in place with Gordon Hayward and all that good stuff. And this is just something that's going to work out very well for this team moving forward. And I think that they'll be really good. I think that everything should be something that makes it to where this team is exciting. And that's exactly what the city of Charlotte wants them to be, is an exciting team. And I think that that's a lot of people. That's all what people are thinking of. That's all what it's about. And that's what it's going to be at the end of the day. So pretty much, this is what it is, man. And Charlotte is a team that, as I said about the Baltimore Orioles, they're a wild card team that you really can't sleep on. And if you have some future bets and things like that, you guys should go ahead and bet it up on the Charlotte Hornets to actually make the playoffs this year. I think that would be a strong bet. And I think they actually make it through to the playoffs to where they actually get to play 7 games in the first round as well, too, because the NBA needs that excitement. They need the exciting players in the playoffs, not, just being guys in commercials all the time and really just kind of just collecting big checks. They got to really step up and become the guys that, that they were heralded to be. And I think that LaMelo is right on time. He's right on point. And I think nothing but the best for this kid. And I think that there's going to be something that's going to be special this year. I'm not trying to make it to seem to where I'm just on his bumper, but the guy is really good. And we all know that he brings the butts to the seats in Charlotte, and he brings the butts to the seats to a lot of the arenas that Charlotte plays in as well, too. And that was a real burden for this team last year, that they couldn't market that situation because he was never healthy. So it is what it is at the end of the day. And we move forward with our in the state of the Lakers. The Lakers lose their first preseason game at Warriors. What to expect during training camp? So pretty much we have there's not much to talk about because I watched the game and I wasn't really it's preseason. Who cares at the end of the day, right? And I just saw that AD was pretty good with his AD was pretty good with his eyes. That was good. He wasn't falling down as much as he usually does. That was cool. But all in all, though, they still are who they are. And they never play that well during preseason anyway. And I think that that's something that has affected them in the start of the season as well, too. It seems like every first month of the year since LeBron's been here, they struggle. Like they literally struggle the first month of the season. And the Lakers, that's what I'm prepared for, is a struggle at the first part of the season because they never have enough gelling going on during the preseason. LeBron's literally just practicing with the team right now. He's probably going to play about 2 preseason games, and they'll be at home, and he'll probably play for a quarter or two, but that's okay. You don't want LeBron out there playing for a whole game. You really don't. But all in all, you want to see if these guys are any good. That's what I'm on right now. I want to see if these young guys have anything to offer to this team, because they got to be better. With Lakers, when they won championships, we always had a young guy who could step it up, who could do big things, who could do great things. And, this is what it's all about. You have to have players that are ready to step into the moment when it's time for it. It's not guys that, just play themselves into it and, they develop well in G League, so then they can come up here and have a good 6-point game. No, they need to be able to come in here and play some good defense, come in here and rebound, come in here and make the open shots, do things that others aren't doing. Do the little things. That's what you learn in preseason. At this point right now, the Lakers got 2 stars, and that's what everybody on the team really has to understand, is that they got 2 stars, AD and LeBron. Everybody else is a role player, and everybody needs to figure out what their biggest role is. If you're the guy that brings the ball up and you can hit the open 3, then be that guy. If you're the guy who rebounds and gets your points in the block and in the off layups and off hustle points, be that guy. Don't be extra. Don't be, we don't need to have 10 3-point shooters. That's the biggest problem in today's NBA. And that's the biggest problem with the Lakers mentality, is that they think everybody on that team can shoot, and they can't. That's my biggest gripe with this squad. And I feel like what they need to do is they need to be more timely, and they need to make sure that, we're taking things more seriously. This isn't, you guys keep acting like, you got a spot on the team, and you don't. AD and Bron are always the only safe people on this team. Everybody else is an asset to be traded later on down the road if things don't work out. Everybody. Okay? Even your favorites that aren't AD and LeBron. It's like that, because the Lakers are in a win now mentality. They're not in a let's build a team up mentality. That idea left 5 years ago when LeBron got here. Okay? So we're out of that. We're out of that market. So right now, these guys have to understand they have to play with the championship mentality, but you don't have enough players with that championship mentality, and that's where the Lakers really, really have their issues at, in my opinion. So with that, we move forward. We'll have more to talk about the Lakers as we have more games and more to talk about with the Lakers. But all in all, their first preseason game wasn't too bad. They did their best. They just couldn't stay up with the Warriors, and they gave the Warriors fans something to go home with. It is what it is. All right, so we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into the Blue Crew Daily. And Blue Crew Daily, Dodgers lose game 1, 11-2, as Kershaw struggled to get out the first inning. What to expect in game 2? Well, what to expect in game 2? What to expect in game 2? Well, what to expect in game 2 is the Dodgers to get in there and forget about what happened on Saturday and play this game as if it's game 7 of the World Series, and really put themselves in position to really get this win, this must-win situation now. Because you lost Saturday, you made it to where the Diamondbacks now have home field advantage. But tonight, I feel like if the Dodgers can go in here and punch them in the nose and get themselves a good win, not a win where you win 4-3 or 2-1 or something like that. I'm talking about a win where you go in there and beat them just like they beat you Saturday night. And you say to yourself that, yeah, that was cute what you did Saturday, but all you did was just wake up a sleeping giant. That's exactly the mentality the Dodgers have to have. But as I said on the Mike Abadir show, and as I've been saying for the last month, the Dodgers got to be road warriors anyway. At the end of the day, they got to win this series on the road. And so pretty much losing that game right there should give the Dodgers a little bit more motivation and another goal. Let's go ahead and sweep the next 3 games. We win tonight. We win the next 2 at Arizona, but you got to win tonight. That's the whole thing. But if they were to lose tonight, I'm not losing any faith in the Dodgers in the series, because I know that they can go to Arizona and easily win 2 games in a row. That's how good they are in Arizona. That's the whole thing. And that's how good the Dodgers been on the road all season. That's why it's always been like, these home games. The Dodgers probably have been beat up more at home than they've been on the road. And I just think that it's because the atmosphere at Dodger Stadium, you got a little bit of more pressure on you. You're trying to be your cutest and your best for the best fans in the world, and boom, you just don't have it that night. And I've just felt like Kershaw is a guy that they know very well, and they were able to just, pretty much get him right where they wanted him at. And it's that simple. And so pretty much it is what it is at the end of the day. They lost on Saturday. There's nothing to sit up in here and opinionate about. It was a horrible game. It was a horrible situation. We move forward from there, and you move on and you go try to win the series. The Dodgers are not in a position where they lose the series because they lost 11-2. They just lost game one. And as I told several people, you do not win a series in game one. You just don't. Game one a lot of times becomes the most irrelevant game in any series because it was just one game. We've seen this movie too many times to sit up here and act like, oh, this is the end of the series. It's not. But what it does, though, it just makes the Dodgers look bad and it makes the Diamondbacks look good. That's all it is at the end of the day. But tonight, this should be a different story. I expect the Dodgers to win this game, go to Arizona with a 1-1 split, and we go from there. Well, let's go ahead, jump into our next, and that's going to be the ALDS, and that's going to be between the NLDS. That's going to be between the Phillies and the Braves. It's going to be game two. The Phillies surprised all of us by beating the Braves 3-0 on Saturday. They shut the Braves out. They had a great pitching effort as well, too, but there were some controversial moments in that game, but they still were able to win. That's the whole thing. And the Phillies, just like the Diamondbacks, just like the Rangers, they took the momentum from dominating in their wild card series, and they took them into the first game of the series. If you're a bettor, you should have expected that. Seriously, you should have expected these teams to come in here very hot. And the Twins losing to the Astros wasn't a surprise because the Twins barely won their series. You know what I mean? They won 2 in a row, but still their games were close. Everybody else had games where they just ended the series, dude. That's all it was. And pretty much now you're sitting here and you have a team with the Phillies that know they're going against the best team in baseball. And so they have to play on a different level than they played at all season long. They have to really get into the scouting report. They really have to see exactly what's going to work, what's not going to work, and that's where we go from there. The Braves came in there just like the Dodgers. Cute. We got the home field advantage. There shouldn't be anything that should stop us from doing what we want to do today. Once we get the first hit and we hear the roar of the crowd, these guys should be a wrap. Nope, it didn't go down like that. So tonight, both the Dodgers and the Braves have to go in there and recognize that this is the playoffs. This is not a regular season situation. If you lose this series, the season is over, And for the Braves, if they lose tonight, their season is over because they're not coming back to Atlanta. They're not. Because the Braves are the Phillies are way too good in Philadelphia right now. And the Braves have to get this win to get themselves some confidence, because if they got to go to Philadelphia and win 2 in a row, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really hard. And the Braves are good enough to do it. They're good enough to go down 0-2 and then win 3 in a row. But you just don't want to put yourself in that position. You just don't. That's the whole thing, especially when you got a guy like Strider who is literally striking out 8 guys minimum every game. You don't want to waste Strider. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure you win this game tonight so you have Strider ready for game 5 or for game 4, whichever may be the case. But all in all, the Philadelphia Phillies are the most dangerous team in the playoffs right now. They're playing very lights out baseball at the same time too. And it's just a really good thing for this team to be able to just go about their business. They ain't putting no pressure on themselves. The Braves, Dodgers, they did all this winning. They did all this, winning the divisions and things like that, winning by double digits and stuff. And now there's expectations there. Phillies' expectations aren't the same. The Phillies' expectations was we made the playoffs and let's see what we can do. The Braves and Dodgers' expectations are we'll see you in the championship series and we're going to settle this because whoever wins this possibly is going to be the World Series champion. So we'll see how it goes. But like I always like to say in baseball, it's one game at a time. One game at a time. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take another quick break. And when I get back, we're going to get into talking tickets. Your favorite subject, my favorite subject. So stick around so you guys don't miss the money. All right. It's your boy, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Kappa, and I'll be right back at you.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, here we are talking tickets. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. Because we're here right where you guys want to be. I know I'll be teasing y'all. I'd be like, damn, man, this guy with all this damn sports news and stuff. I only tuned into the show so I can see what the bets look like. Well, we here now. So up first, let's go ahead and get into the Phillies-Braves game. 2 bets. I like the over 8 in the spot tonight. I think that should be a good play for us. I feel like the Braves is going to be hitting the ball pretty hard tonight. They want to send a message tonight to the Phillies that, you know, we got the wake-up call, and you just need to understand that you ain't going to beat us. So pretty much over 8 tonight. Braves, money line, -150, first 5 innings. Then I got the Braves winning this game by 3 or more. That's going to be plus 200 if we can get that home. And then I got the Phillies going under 3.5 runs tonight. So hopefully we get ourselves a 7-2 finish here in this game tonight. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, we have ourselves the Dodgers and D-backs and Dodgers game, 2 bets. And I got the Dodgers -1.5 plus 130. I'm that confident in the Dodgers tonight to where we don't have to overspend on the money line. They just win this game by 2 or more runs. You got Bobby Miller on the mound. He should be ready. He should be poised. He should be focused on the task at hand. And possibly that should have been the game 1 starter as well, too. Really, if Julio Urias could have just kept his damn hands to himself, it could have just been him, and the Dodgers could have avoided this whole situation in general. But it is what it is at the end of the day. The under 4, first 5, and then we also have the Dodgers over 4.5 runs. And then we also have Mookie Betts, first player to hit a home run tonight, at 7-1. So that's going to be the D-backs and Dodger bets for us tonight. And then we wrap it up with the Monday Night Football bets. It's a Monday night party. I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of fun with old Buck and Aikman in the booth now, man. It's been years overdue that they've had a good, crew. Groot and Tirico were gold in a sense. They really spoiled us over the years with those two. But Tirico going to NBC, Gruden going back into the booth, that tandem broke up, and then we kind of had to stick with we had to go with some tryouts in a sense, you know what I mean? But I think they finally got it with Buck and Troy, because those two were staples of the Fox broadcast for a long time and everything like that. So it's pretty cool to finally hear Troy Aikman not have to do a Dallas Cowboys game every single week. And I know he was getting tired of it as well, too. I remember he said it a few times that he was getting tired of doing Cowboys games. So here we are. They get to do a Raiders-Packers game tonight. This is like a John Madden special from back in the day. So pretty much we got the Monday Night Football bets. We got the Raiders winning tonight at the Death Star, -135. Also, I got the over 22.5 for the first half, -115. We also have the Packers first quarter, the plus half a point. Hopefully, if the game is tied, we will go ahead and get the bet home, because the Packers, they'll cash that ticket if the game is tied. And then I got the adjusted line plus 140. I need the Raiders to win this by a touchdown or better so we can cash that fun ticket right there. All right. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on today's show. And pretty much I thank you guys very much for tuning in. You guys are the absolute best. I'll be back tomorrow after we do NFL Bet Exchange. I'll probably be doing the show about possibly 1 o'clock, but I'm going to try to do it as early as possible. But you guys already know we do Bet Exchange. That's about an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes. It will be live tomorrow as well, too, on the same channels that the PrimeTime Angles are on. So make sure you do tune in for that, okay? So with that, I thank you guys so much once again. And this is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. And as I always say, bet with your head and not with your heart. The movement is moving, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.